Good morning and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting and Work Session for July 28, 2020. If you'd like to join us via conference call, the phone number is 360-252-9020 and the extension is 1234. So by way of introductions, I'm John Hutchings. I'm the chair of the board, and we also have present Vice Chair Commissioner Ty Messer, County Manager Ramiro Chavez, Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, and we are joined by Public Health and Social Services Director Shelley Slaughter and our County Health Officer, Dr. A, or Demiana Abdamalik.
Please record your name after the tone.
And I also see, well, not Tom Lefter, that's Keely Marino. So I don't see anybody else. Do you see anybody else that needs introducing, Ramiro?
Let me scroll. We have Jacinda Stilges. I think you get Heidi Thompson from the Sheriff's Office, Tim Wilson, Gary Hannon.
Okay.
That's all I can see.
Good. Welcome, everybody. And now we'll get down to business. The first thing on the agenda is our COVID-19 update. So we have Dr. A and Shelley Slaughter. Which one's going to take? Shelley?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'll start with providing the data report as of yesterday afternoon. Statewide, there have been 53,321 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 1,518 deaths. In Thurston County to date, as of yesterday, we will release more data today after 2 o'clock. There have been 594 confirmed cases and 6 deaths. 308 people have been released from public health supervision. In the last week, since our last report, we've had 99 new cases of COVID-19 in Thurston County. 3 Thurston County residents have been hospitalized in the last 7 days. We've had 1 death in the last week. And out of 1,986 tests, 3.7% have been positive. That's compared to our total tests to date, which includes 21,673 for an overall 2.6% positive. So we're continuing to see more and more cases of COVID-19 and see the percent positive continue to rise. We're still experiencing some laboratory capacity test delays. And so we may not see results of tests conducted this week until next week. A little bit about our current demographics. 11% of our cases in Thurston County have been to children under age 19. And the greatest age demographic impacted in Thurston County, and this is also true statewide, is people aged 20 to 29. In Thurston County, that represents 23% of our total confirmed cases to date. We are very hopeful that we will start to see the positive impacts of more and more people wearing masks. Last week, Secretary Wiesman updated the proclamation on statewide face coverings to include more spaces in which people are required to wear face coverings, and also encourage people to maintain that 6 feet physical distancing. And with that, I will pass it to Dr. Abdamalik to share some more details.
Thank you, Shelley. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Commissioners. So in terms of what this means at kind of the human level, we're still seeing a few clusters that were traced to an out-of-state tournament that happened at the end of June, beginning of July. So people came back sick, and then COVID-19 is kind of working through the family. And so as people come into close contact with each other, different family members are becoming sick, and we're still seeing some people getting sick from that initial exposure. Over the weekend, there were 3 barbecues that accounted, just family and friends, things that people would think are, completely innocent outside, that caused a number of new cases. And we're closely following with the contacts who were present as well. And then just wanted to share a little bit with you as well as, with our public. That, as our contact tracers and case investigators are calling folks up and letting them know, that they tested positive, what we're hearing is, my gathering with my family was my one exception, to remaining, to staying at home and maintaining 6 feet, of distance. It was my one exception to wearing a face mask, so it doesn't have to be, that people are, doing extremely, high risk things or ignoring guidance. It can even be just a small lapse around people that you know and love. And we're seeing a little bit of that this week.
Doctor, that tournament, was it a baseball?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Menser, any questions or comments? No, you're muted.
I had one, but it slipped my mind, so I'll defer to Commissioner Edwards if he has anything.
Back to you. Oh, Commissioner Edwards has made it. Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Have you remembered yet?
I
Ty?
think I'm good. Oh, I think I'm okay.
I sent you, I forwarded an email to you, Shelley, this morning, probably within that 15 minutes or so, regarding a compliment, high praise for what your staff is doing, and far and above better than they have seen at the state level. And they're very appreciative. So you have that in your inbox.
Thank you so much, sir.
Commissioner Menser, go ahead.
I do remember. So yesterday, there was a chart on my chair. I don't know where it came from, or
I provided that to you.
okay. Is there some significance that I should be drawing from it? It's titled
No,
number.
it was just
positive.
it's just the daily updates that I get, and there was a significance of the chart just to give a perspective as to when all the different decisions that were made by the governor related to the number of cases, just to give you a graphical trend of the cases.
Okay, great. That's what I was hoping it was. I thought it might be some sort of new permutation of the layout of the data, but
And I will try to give the board, that periodic table every so often.
okay, thank you.
Shelley, I have one further question, and that is, are we aware or anticipating the governor another press release this week, or anything that might be a press conference, something that might be on the horizon, good, bad, or indifferent?
The governor typically holds press conferences and has media events on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. And at this time, I do not have any information regarding what the governor may share this week. I just know that local public health jurisdictions, as well as Washington State Department of Health and the governor's office, continue to very closely monitor the latest data that we have, and the governor has been making adjustments based upon that data.
All right, thank you very much.
This week. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Now we're going to move on to our homeless strategies.
Commissioner, before you move on to the next item, could I have a minute?
Certainly.
I would like to add another item to your agenda today, agenda setting.
Yep.
And this is a request that I just got this morning from the County Prosecutor, John Thunheim. They would like to have a conversation with the board related to a recall petition to Sheriff Snaza. And there's some questions, and perhaps the board needs to weigh in on a couple of decisions. I did ask him to join the meeting at 10 o'clock. So I may ask you to be mindful of the time that he committed to come and have a conversation with the board. And at that time, I will frame the issue and perhaps what the request is of the board. And then he will be available to answer any questions. I did confer with him whether there is a need to have this conversation in an executive session. And he determined that it was not needed to have an executive session, so this conversation will be done in public. I just want to frame that for you.
All right, thank you very much. And so now we'll move on to homeless strategies with our homeless coordinator, Katie Marino. Yay.
Good morning, commissioners. This is Keely Marino from Public Health and Social Services. So I have a few updates today. Yesterday, the City of Olympia led an effort to do a pretty thorough cleaning of Ensign Road. And so I just spoke with Teal Russell, the Olympia homeless coordinator, and she mentioned that code enforcement, parking enforcement, a few OPD officers and St. Pete's security were present during the cleanup. It was necessary to tow a few vehicles and 2 trailers, but that it was a very thorough cleaning. And they're hoping that helps with some of the pressure on that roadside. And then today, I'll be meeting with the new captain of the Salvation Army with Teal Russell as well. And that's really all I have to report today.
So I'll start. I'm glad you mentioned the Salvation Army. I forwarded you an email. I was waiting. I forwarded you an email 10, 15 minutes ago with a hyperlink to an article earlier this month out of Auburn. And Auburn and the Salvation Army in that area have partnered together. I'm sure you're aware of it, called Street Level. Are you familiar with that?
Honestly, that was the first I'd heard of it. It was a really interesting article.
You already read it?
Yeah, I read it.
Wow, good. I just heard about that over the weekend because the lady that is working with Street Level, as it's called, is the sister of a woman in Tenino who's also a business owner in Tenino. And I went down there on Saturday for one of their events and talked with her, and we were talking about the issues, and she cited it for me and sent me the information. So I wanted to get it to you right away because they're having, as the article says on King 5, they're having surprisingly, it's a successful program. And I don't know how up to speed capacity-wise our Salvation Army is, but any nonprofit I would think can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's something that we can do in conjunction with that nonprofit at the county level or City of Olympia with staffing. I'm not sure. I'm not going to speak for any organization, but I just wanted to pass it on to you because it sounds like it was pretty doggone cool for helping the street people. So I'll let you, okay, goodbye. Are you sneezing? Oh, you went away.
I have a very noisy puppy. I apologize.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. So you have the
So-
information and just report back and let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. I have the intent to bring it up today during my meeting with the new captain, Captain Arnold at Salvation Army.
Captain Arnold?
Mhm.
And where did Captain Arnold come from? Do you know?
You know, I'm not sure. I've reached out a couple of times and I haven't gotten a lot of response, so I'm looking forward to this meeting today.
Perfect. Commissioner Edwards, any questions or comments?
No, sir.
Commissioner Menser?
Yes. So I want to make sure I understand when you say Ensign Road cleaning, but then you talked about towing. I mean, and then you said something about parking rules. I want to make sure I understand. Is it just cleaning up the area, or is it basically displacing the people that are parked there?
No, there was an abandoned vehicle. There were 2 abandoned vehicles, as I understand, and then 2 trailers that were not connected to a vehicle. So parking enforcement, the laws around parking enforcement are that trailers can't be parked alongside the road and disconnected from a vehicle.
Oh, okay.
So, but no one was displaced.
And I got an email yesterday from Olympia official about Rosie's Place and a COVID-19 test and what they're trying to do. Do you have any more information on that?
Yeah, Rosie's Place is currently closed and will remain closed for a week or 2 weeks. They did have a confirmed COVID-19 case in the young adult shelter there. And the public health is investigating and working with CYS on that. There will be some testing there today.
The reason I ask, because what the information I got yesterday didn't really say, I didn't really have an understanding of who's at, like what is the implication of it being closed? Like how many many folks are served and inside and trying to be somewhere else. And I didn't have a sense the scope of how many folks are served daily by Rosie's Place.
So the young adult shelter can house up to 26 young people, but from reports at the Hazardous Weather Task Force, they've been averaging about 15. So, so between 15 and 26 would be the number of youth that would not have a place to stay. And their numbers during the day, I'm not clear on because they changed their process for physical distancing during COVID-19. So they were just allowing a few youth in at a time to come in and shower and access food. So I don't know what the average number of young people accessing daytime services are at this point.
And I missed your, when you said meeting with Salvation Army, I missed kind of what's going on with Salvation Army. What was the point of the meeting or the point of what you said this morning?
Oh, it was just to say that there's a brand new captain in town, Captain Arnold, and I had not yet made contact with him. So I wanted to make sure that myself and Teal Russell from the City of Olympia were able to meet with him, introduce ourselves, answer any questions, get a sense of where the Salvation Army is headed in terms of programming. As I know of right now, the shelter is still operating 24/7. Last report, they were only set to be able to run that program until mid-July, but they're continuing that 24/7 sheltering program. I'm not clear how long they're hoping to operate. So hopefully I'll get that information today.
Thank you.
I've got a couple other things now, Keely, and that is, I don't know when or where you and Teal are going to meet with Captain Arnold, but I would like to meet Teal and I'd like to meet Captain Arnold.
Great.
So if the time and date of your introduction coincides with something I can make, I would love to know. Unless, if I can't make it, I'll say I won't make it. I'll make my own appointment. Or unless you don't want me there,
Okay.
I'll give you the first right of refusal.
I'll definitely get back to you ASAP because it's in my calendar, but I don't have it memorized.
Okay, thank you. And then we're talking about the campers and the vehicles on Ensign Road. We're receiving quite a bit of email and suggestions to open up the Thurston County Fairgrounds to the homeless and to the vehicles. And I just want people, and Romero can help me out with this. I know we are under contract with a private company leasing the parking lot for an extended period of time, from what I'm told. And the fairgrounds proper, the University of Washington Extension campus is there, as well as they have events scheduled for various birthdays, weddings throughout the summer, and then the odd funeral celebration is held there as well throughout the summer. So it's just not really a viable place at this point in time. Do you have, Romero or Keely, do you have any answer to that at all? I know Romero might.
Answer to what the fairgrounds is currently being occupied, I think you outlined correctly, Commissioner.
Okay, so it's something I always stick in the back of my head, but I just don't think it's a viable option. Putting a group of folks that are in need of wraparound services in a neighborhood setting, away from multiple bus routes, away from services, and away from even convenience stores and such, just doesn't seem like a good mix. I have no idea, because I don't speak for Lacey City Council, but they haven't weighed in officially on this. But I wouldn't imagine they're too keen on that idea either. And it's not so much the NIMBY as much as it is the right place at the right time for the right purpose. And we all have that, but I don't think it's the right place. We have our hearts in the right place, but that location is not the right place, and it's occupied now. So it's not a good mix. Now I'll go around the room. Anything from anybody on homelessness? No. Keely, thank you very kindly. Thank you. Now we're going to move into reviewing the agenda for this afternoon's meeting, July 28, 2020. And first on the agenda will be at 2 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chair Commissioner Menser. And then we'll move on with the approval of the agenda and approval of the board meeting minutes from last Tuesday. And then we have a presentation from CPED.
Yeah, Commissioners, members of the Fair Board will be appearing virtually via Zoom meeting. And this is a yearly event in which the board members come and present to the board the number of volunteer hours they have. And the many volunteers commit to the success of the fairgrounds, and including the Thurston County Fair. Unfortunately, this year, the Thurston County Fair has been canceled, but also there has been many events in which the volunteers has provided many hours. And this is part of the annual report to give a perspective how many hours the volunteers have committed to provide, really a good a good activities within the fairgrounds to the citizens in Thurston County. And so this afternoon, they will be presented to you with a surprise, hopefully I'll be part of that as well. It's a little bit innovative since we will not be able to have an in-person presentation to the board. So that is the gist of that item before you.
Thank you. And I apologize for using the acronym CPED. That's Community Planning and Economic Development. And the Fair Board, the fair is under the auspices of that department. So we look forward to that. There won't be anybody in attendance this afternoon for that presentation. Will Josh be here? Or it's all Zoom?
Well, I'm tracking everything will be Zoom because we have a very limited seating arrangements here in room 280, Commissioner. We only have available to 7 seats based on the mandates by the governor.
Okay, understandable. Thank you. Then we have an opportunity for the public to address the board. And do we have any hot topics? Everything's a hot topic. Anything we anticipate?
Yeah, probably you get some testimony related to your upcoming public hearing related to the budget amendment number 4 that you will be holding a public hearing tomorrow. You're also going to be holding a public hearing this afternoon related to the Black Lake adjustment on the rates. We have received quite a bit of testimony on that, so some citizens may take that as an opportunity to address the board prior to the public hearing.
That would be my expectation. Commissioners, any heads up on anything that might be coming up for public comment? No? Okay. Then the county manager's update. Do you have a follow-up, Romero?
I don't have any specific follow-up, Commissioners.
Okay. It takes us to item number 3 on the agenda, the consent items A and B. The first one is the treasurer, and it's another tax title property sale.
Yeah, your Commissioners, you reviewed this item last week. And this, and again, I'd like to give a little bit perspective for the viewing public. This is governed by RCW 36.35.120, 36.35.130, 36.35.150, and Thurston County Code 2.105. Tax title property becomes under the custody of the county when those properties are delinquent in paying the property taxes. For the most part, those properties are small in nature, and for the most part are unbuildable. The Board of County Commissioners entrusted the county treasurer a couple of years ago for the county treasurer to be systematic as to how they need to dispose those tax title properties to become part of the tax roll, which is a benefit to the county as a whole. So Jeff Godman, the county treasurer, has been, I believe, extremely proactive in bringing some tax title properties for your consideration. The steps that the county treasurer needs to go through is he needs to offer a foreclosure auction for any members of the public to provide a bid on any particular properties they might be interested in purchasing. When there is not a bidder within the foreclosure property, then according to the state law, the county treasurer can exercise private negotiations, and again, to achieve the same objective of disposing those tax title properties. In this particular case, that is what has occurred. This is a property. There is a triangular shape. It is 2 acres, and it is deemed unbuildable because of the shape of the property. It abuts the railroad tracks, And also the property is, I'll say probably 80% encumbered by wetlands. So, and the county assessor has determined that it's not a buildable option. So the Thurston County treasurer is asking the board to authorize the private negotiation. And the total sale price is $795.58, which includes all the included fees and processing fees and such. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Any questions, gentlemen? Nope. Okay. That takes us to consent item 3B, the voucher list. And so we'll address that. Any questions on the voucher list? No? Okay.
Mine were addressed previous to the meeting.
Pardon me?
Oh, I said my voucher questions have been addressed previous to today.
Good, okay. Department items, now we're moving to the sheriff's office. Agenda item number 4 is the request for proposal awarding a contract regarding inmate telephone system.
Yeah, this is also an item that you reviewed last week, commissioners. You have listed the Under Sheriff Tim Braniff to be the one who is going to be presenting this item this afternoon, and unfortunately he's not able to attend, so I will be presenting this item on his behalf this afternoon. So as a matter of background, the sheriff's office, they're currently on the correction side, they're currently using 41 phones at the jail, 18 mounted visit tablets, 2 kiosks, 44 tablets, 2 video relay tablets, 2 portable phones, 4 visit tablets mounted on a roll-around carts, and 30 local dial tone lines servicing the Thurston County Corrections Facility, particularly how the inmates communicate with their relatives and friends. The total number of calls in 2019 was 175,416, which equates to just about 1,130,000 minutes. The tablet use in 2019 was close to 3.2 million minutes and almost 87,000 messages received and roughly 138,000 messages sent. The county receives a commission for the phone and tablet services by the provider. And that revenue is deposited in the prisoner concession fund, which is used back to the health and welfare of the inmates. So there's not a profit the county makes out of this particular matters. Everything is a services to the inmates, and any revenue associated with this particular item is go back into this fund. It is invested on the inmates at the same time. So the telephone usage for your information is provided to the inmates from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. And also the video visitation is from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. So the sheriff's office is requesting for you to authorize going through a request for proposals to secure the services, a vendor to provide those services to the corrections, to the jail specifically. Any questions?
Any questions? Nope. All right, thank you. That takes us to agenda item number 5, Public Health and Social Services. And it's a homeless service contract with affordable housing between the county and 8 nonprofit organizations for a big chunk of money.
Yeah, this is an item we also reviewed last week. Allow me to give you some background related to this. On February 21st, 2020, Thurston County issued a request for proposals to secure services for homeless and affordable housing applications. There was an internal review team. They composed of local experts as well as from the county, local jurisdictions, in which they reviewed the applications and provided some recommendations for funding to the Health and Human Services Council with the HHSC. And I believe Commissioner Hutchins is a member representing the county in that. The HHSC is formed by elected officials, again from the county, Olympia, Lacey, Tamboura, Yom Tenino, Rainier, and Bucota. The HHSC met on May 2020 and discussed the recommendations by the technical review team And they decided to pass those recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners on June 2nd, 2020. So the recommendations before you is for you to consider award 5 new projects to be funded by the House Bill 2163, which is recording fees, and also the renewal of 11 2019 funded multi-year contracts, also funded by the recording fees. The total award is $1,703,645. And the HHSC set aside $125,000 to be designated for emergency funding for any additional emergency that may arise in the year. And also they set aside $25,000 to fund the point-in-time count that occurs in January of every year. If you like, I can walk you through the awards, specific awards, as I stated last week. If not, just send us ready for you to answer any questions you may have related to this item.
I don't need that information because I've lived it. I don't know if Commissioner Edwards or Menser would like that information, all the different nonprofits and such. Nope, good, okay.
I'm good. I've seen it, Liz.
Thank you. Jacinda, do you have anything to add?
I don't. No, thank you.
Wow, you got off like easily.
I know. Thanks.
All right, thank you then. And move on to the next item. 5B, Healthcare Authority, the HCA contract, CJTA, Criminal Justice Treatment Account.
Yeah, you also reviewed this item, Commissioners. This is an item for you to authorize a contract between Thurston County Public Health and Social Services, and the Washington State Healthcare Authority to receive a yearly allocation of, in this case, is $371,177. And this is related to the Criminal Justice Treatment Account, also known as a CJTA. This funding must be spent in substance use disorder, treatment, and recovery support services for individuals involved in the criminal justice center and the system. And the agreement before you is, and again, for $371,177, and that goes for the period July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. And this is an increase from a previous allocation. Just to give you an idea, the previous allocation was $239,327. And I believe Carrie Hennon is joining us today. If you have any questions or seek additional clarification.
Any questions, Commissioners of Carrie? Welcome, Carrie.
Good morning.
Any questions? No? Is there anything you'd like to add, Carrie?
No, we talked about this last week. I think it's fairly straightforward. So
Okay.
it should be good.
Good, thank you. Thanks for showing up. And then we're moving on to agenda item number 6, Central Services call for sealed bids.
Central Services is requesting the board to authorize securing bids for the replacement of the TCOM 911 Emergency Services Center, which is located in Pacific Avenue, to replace the heating, ventilation, and air conditioner, the HVAC system, including the removal of 2 existing ton split system, heat pumps, and associated components of the replacement system. This is and again, a request to authorize the department to go and secure bids. This is funded by Central Services Building Reserve. It's already included in the budget. There were a couple of questions last week. I believe one of Commissioner Menser is stating what type of equipment will be replaced with, and hopefully that will be a more energy efficient. And I believe the answer from Marriott at that time was yes, that was the intent, to replace the older equipment that will be more efficient, and it will be reducing the carbon footprint of the building itself. And I believe Marriott is with us. No, he's not, but Robin Campbell can take on if you have any questions.
Do you have anything to add, Robin?
Oh, I think Romero covered it very well.
Okay, commissioners, any questions about this?
Yes,
Please go ahead.
I guess, would this replacement meet the needs of the Thurston Climate Action Team proposals?
I will say that it's an alignment.
It's in alignment with those proposals?
Yeah, because I believe that was the gist of Commissioner Messer's questions last week.
Okay,
And I believe that was, the answers was in alignment to that, yeah.
thank you.
Good, okay. Nothing further, then we move on to number 7 will be the county manager's section. And we talk about our board work sessions and such. And then the county manager will go through our agenda, combined agenda for next week. And then we go right from there. We'll probably, do we adjourn and go into a new Zoom for the public hearings, or do we just recess and go into the new Zoom? No, same Zoom.
You depending on what time you will end your regular board meeting.
Okay. But then we're moving into 2 public hearings about 3 o'clock, or at 3. The first one is community planning, economic development regarding this Rochester sub-area plan update.
Yeah, Commissioners, you will be receiving public testimony related to the proposed Rochester sub-area plan. This has been an item that is included on the 2020-2021 official comprehensive plan amendment docket that you approved early in the year. The item is the CP-7B. And this is a long journey, at least from my point of view, where the public has had many opportunities to provide comments. The Planning Commission has held a public hearing, and this is the next step for you to receive public testimony related to this proposed plan before you can consider taking a final action and approving the plan. I believe Shannon Shula, the planner who has been working on this plan, is available to you. She will be presenting the staff report this afternoon prior to you receiving public testimony. But certainly she's available this morning to answer any questions that you may have. Well, I think she is.
Any questions, commissioners?
I don't see her, so
Okay.
I can answer any questions that you may have.
We've talked about this issue quite often. So did any commissioner questions or comments? Nope. All right. And I'll state again now that if anybody wants to join the public hearing, the phone number is 360-252-9020. And the pin is 1234. And you can testify, or you can just listen in if you like.
Yeah,
The next-
Commissioner, also for any public hearing, we also have an opportunity for any public to join virtually via Zoom meeting. And that information to sign up is included in our website. So if any members of the public would like to provide a visual, a public testimony, I will encourage them to go ahead and register so we can keep track of who is going to be providing testimony this afternoon.
Good, thank you. Thank you for that. And then the second public hearing is from Public Works, and it's the Black Lake Special Use District public hearing.
Yeah, you have received a couple of briefings related to this particular proposal, and this is the Black Lake Special Use District. They have been, they are requesting to increase the rates to issue themselves a $1.4 million bond, where they're going to try to provide a special treatment to Black Lake. There's 178 lake properties and have been determined the Black Lake Special Use District. The special assessment will be range from as low as $32 annually to as high as $17,736 annually, which that is the Washington State Parks. The median cost of affected properties will be about $575.42. You have received a lot of public written testimony in your email inbox related to this particular proposal. And this has been specifically related to glyphosate. Some citizens have raised concerns related to the use of glyphosate on the treatment. And again, the action of the board is not to approve any type of prescriptions or to approve any type of applications on the lake. The proposal before you is to authorize the request from the Black Lake special use district to increase the rates to treat the lake. Tim Wilson is available here to answer any questions. And again, he will be presenting the staff report prior for you to open for public testimony. And he certainly is available to answer any questions right now or later this afternoon.
Welcome, Tim. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Good morning. Yeah, I guess I would just like to echo what Ramiro said, that the the process per RCW, the meaning of this public hearing is to consider challenges to the role of assessment, which I've included in the materials for the public hearing that outlines per parcel what the assessment charge would be. I would just note at this point we have, I believe, 27 comments. None of those at this point address the assessment or the role of assessments. Most of them are either comments just up and down for or against the assessment, and in most cases they are for they speak to herbicide usage, which is not part of the proposal that has come forward from Black Lake Special District. So there's some information within the community that that is spawning this this communication that is a bit off topic.
So just real quick before I get to my seatmates, obviously we've all received, and so have you. You've been working these emails that have been coming in, the comments. The question of the actual amount of the assessment was in question by someone, and then they addressed the herbicides as well, and then representation of the vote along the shoreline and such. But that, at least the last piece though, the first one, the amount of the assessment and the representation of the vote, that seems to be part of this public hearing, I would think, or part of the move or the role for the SUD. Is that correct?
Yeah, the public hearing should speak specifically to each individual's assessment and whether, as part of the amount that the special use district is attempting to raise, is if their charge for that parcel is appropriate in that formula. That is specifically what this public hearing is for. I know there were several that spoke to the dollar amount, spoke to the cost of the bond over the period, didn't feel it was necessary or correct at this point, but none that spoke to their specific parcel and if it was correct or incorrect within the formula. And then as far as the representation out there, I have responded to several emails and tried to illustrate that it's an elected board that is operational out there, and that I passed on the email address for the Black Lake Special District Board to receive those comments.
And the county's not involved in their election of their board.
That's correct.
Okay. Commissioner Menser, go ahead, sir.
I did see at least one email yesterday that related to the not a specific dispute of a calculation, but the general idea of whether or not it should all be borne by the lakefront folks versus, apparently that email was saying they've got a park that's commonly used and everybody's benefiting type thing, versus other folks who are actually even on the lake shore and said, well, I don't swim in the lake, I don't use the lake, it should be the swimmer. I mean, everybody wants to shunt the financial burden onto a group that doesn't involve them, however they want to define that. So I know that I guess what I'm asking, my question is, can you just remind me, it was the Black Lake, I think it's the Black Lake board that you just described that decided that they were going to allocate this to the lakefront folks. They could have gone to a broader group, but they decided from a policy perspective to put the burden on the lakeshore property owners across the board. Is that a fair characterization?
That's exactly right. The petition that we received, or the resolution from their board that we received, contained a formula that they had done their work, and they had determined that the beneficiaries of this proposal would be the lakefront owners. So they came to us with a proposal that had a formula broken down that only included those lakefront property owners. So we simply took that formula and worked with it, put it into an Excel spreadsheet, and turned it into a roll of assessment. So we didn't have a hand in that. That's the Black Lake Special District.
And I do understand the point that the board's action is not directly, approving a formula for treatment, but obviously that's why we're being asked to approve the assessment. So I guess there's kind of an indirect connection. So my question is going just a little bit further, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, but it seems like the bulk of the emails, and I'm not a chemist and I don't know anything about herbicides, but all the emails I'm getting are naming chemicals that are different than the ones that the Black Lake Special Use board members came to us with. Now, maybe those are different names for the same thing. I know, like with pharmaceuticals, you have trade names and medical names and blah, blah, blah. So maybe I'm not getting it, but as I read all these emails, it doesn't sound like the thing people's concerned about is what's being proposed. Do you have any insight on that might help clarify?
Yeah, hopefully. There's basically two things happening. You have the Black Lake Special District, which has an ongoing maintenance program within the lake, and they do as a I don't know if it's an annual program, but nearly annual program. They do apply herbicides within the lake under part of their normal maintenance program. So I think I received an email from a property owner out there that made reference to a recent notification from the board advising them that they were about to move forward with some of their herbicidal treatment out there. So that's an ongoing program that their governing board moves forward with. They are bound to operate under the laws of Washington State regarding herbicide usage. The herbicides that I keep hearing are glyphosate and diquat, which are regulated by Department of Ecology, and our pesticide policy at the county doesn't apply to that because it's not county managed property. On the financing, the bond financing is for an algae treatment, and that is an alum treatment. It's aluminum phosphate. It's not an herbicide per se. So it's a different process and a program that they are looking to do with this program. If that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. And then last question, so after today's hearing, are we going to be making a decision immediately, or we have the ability obviously to wait? But is there another step in the process, or is this kind of the final piece before we make that final call on the authorizing the fees?
So, Commissioner, this afternoon, the only action you have is to close the public hearing. And depending on the public testimony that you might receive this afternoon, then we will schedule a follow-up briefing before you consider taking the final action.
Okay.
Commissioner Edwards, go ahead, sir.
We've heard about a average cost of around $500 per property owner. For how many years is this expected to go on, and what's the total amount of money we're trying to raise here?
The servicing of the bond, it's a $1.4 million bond that's being proposed by the special use district. The servicing of the bond, the assessment, this special assessment would raise $103,000 and it would be a 20-year term. So quick math on that, I think is a little over 2 million, 2,060,000 or something similar to that over the 20-year period.
And the product that they're going to apply is what? It's just it coagulates the algae and then it settles to the bottom and seals. Is that kind of the process?
That's roughly correct. Yeah, it's aluminum phosphate and it provides a barrier on the bottom of the lake and holds the nutrients down. So in that regard, controls algae. I would say I think there was a similar treatment done. I'm guessing a little bit, but I think it was 2016 that a similar treatment was done on Black Lake.
Thank you.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Tim, thank you very kindly for that. And that takes care of this afternoon's board meeting. And we're going to go ahead. It's 10 minutes to 10. We're going to take a break because at 10 o'clock, we're going to have, is it the prosecutor coming in?
That is correct.
Okay, so we'll take a 10-minute break because the next board meeting for next week is going to take quite a bit more time than 10 minutes. So we'll take a 10-minute break, come back at 10 o'clock, and we'll continue. Then we're in recess. Thank you. And welcome back to the Board of County Commissioners work session for Tuesday, July 28, 2020. And we're picking up where we kind of left off. And we're being joined by Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Rick Peters. But I'll start with you, Romero.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, so at this point.
And this morning I got an email from John Thunheim. They is requesting the board's attention to a matter related to a citizen filing a recall petition against Sheriff Snaza. The basis of the petition is the sheriff stated unwillingness to initiate criminal proceedings for those not wearing a face covering or a mask. The first step in the process is for Superior Court to review the petition for sufficiency. In order to get to that process, I believe in the sense of urgency is the Superior Court will hear this matter tomorrow, and that is the sense of urgency for you. And within the process, the prosecutor's office is tasked to prepare a draft ballot language. That's part of the steps they will need to do in a particular recall petition. Elizabeth Petrich is working on that. And John Thunheim has assigned Rick Peters, which is present today with us, to represent the sheriff on this particular matter. A citizen has raised an issue that perhaps there is there might be a conflict of interest, if I may. And Rick Peters is going to walk you through RCW 4.96.041, which outlines the requirements of representing an elected official in any particular legal matters. And I believe the request of the board today is to authorize use the internal resources, in this case, the time that Rick Peters will have to spend in defending this matter for the sheriff's office. Rick, did I frame that correctly?
Pretty close, Romero. Thank you very much. I assume you are aware, and good morning, commissioners. Mr. Thunheim just sent me a message. He should be joining very soon, and I'm appearing with the authority that he's given me, and he knows that I'm here in front of you today. When a recall petition is filed, what happens is that the prosecutor is responsible for framing the recall petition if it's believed to at least be facially sufficient in a way for the court to take a look at it. And someone in our office, Scott Cushing, did that and submitted it. And then according to the recall statute, which is in Revised Code of Washington 29A, parties can appear for the petitioner of the recall and the party whom recall is being sought to present argument. And I was assigned, as I represent the sheriff in the jail, to be that party to represent the sheriff in regards to this argument. And what I've done is presented a response brief, essentially alleging why the recall petition is insufficient and shouldn't move forward. And in that, assuming that position representing the sheriff, I've had to wall myself off from the rest of the civil division to avoid the conflict of interest, and that I have not had conversation about this issue with anyone else in my division since it was assigned to me. So I'm acting separate from the rest of the civil division, which is what is required to avoid a conflict. Now, I was made aware because I had not done one of these before, that an additional step was required in RCW 4.96.041. And that step is that both the prosecutor, who is I'm obviously acting on behalf of, and the board needs to give approval for the prosecuting attorney to represent someone, any elected official, in the purposes of recall, because the idea is while I'm working on this, I'm expending county funds. I get paid no matter what I do as far as salary goes, but it is specific in the statute that approval is required. So we're putting the cart in front of the horse a little bit here today, because that was not something I was aware of, and that's my responsibility. I accept responsibility for that. but we're asking at least of a majority of you to give me permission to represent the sheriff for tomorrow's hearing only. If it goes beyond tomorrow's hearing, then we would either come back for more permission or perhaps the sheriff would want to hire private counsel if the recall petition goes forward. But I have briefed the matter and I have filed it with the court, and the argument is set for tomorrow. So the idea is that if you approve, then I will appear tomorrow and argue on the sheriff's behalf in my capacity as the prosecutor assigned to his office. If you don't approve, then I need to notify the sheriff right away so he can arrange for, if he wants to, private counsel to appear on his behalf. And I apologize that this is, number one, short notice, and number two, I've already done work on this. And I want to make sure we do this right, obviously, as I always do. And in this case, we need your permission before I can go any further.
Okay, I'll open it up for questions. But Rick, did the sheriff, if I missed it, I'm sorry, did the sheriff reach out to John then to be represented by the county?
What happened, the process was, since I can't talk to anyone in my office, when the recall petition was filed, Elizabeth Petrich, who you know very well, my supervisor, assigned Scott Cushing to coordinate the petition and assign me to the sheriff. I contacted the sheriff and said, if you want representation in this matter, I'm the one that's been assigned to you. And he very much indicated that he did want to be represented in this matter. That's what I have been proceeding under. I know Mr. Thunheim is okay with it because at this point, I'm making basic legal arguments that may or may not be taken by the court. They may move forward the petition. I have no idea. I'm representing without opinion. I'm doing my job essentially, and I made arguments that I believe are based upon the case law interpretation of the recall statute, and we'll see if that makes any headway or not. It may not.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards, any questions or comments?
Yes, I do. I'm just trying to get a grasp of what this is all about. So I'm just going to ask counsel. Is this like, I don't have the resources to enforce masks, for example, mask violations. I don't have the resources to enforce minor traffic violations, or what is it comparable to? What's bringing this on?
Well,
could this be brought on by a citizen about anything that any elected official does not do that the law says they should, or?
Well, the statute's pretty clear. It requires malfeasance or misfeasance or abuse of authority on behalf of the elected official. And then if the action is discretionary, meaning it's not mandatory according to statute or some other regulation, then there has to be an additional showing of intent. And the basis for the recall petition, and I'm not speaking as an advocate for the sheriff here, I'm speaking instructionally for the board. The basis of the recall petition was that the sheriff issued a news release on the day that the mask requirement came down from the Secretary of Health on behalf of the governor, saying essentially that he would not seek to enforce that order criminally. And I believe that if you read the news release, I believe resource is one of the primary bases for that. He indicated he would work with the health department and the guidelines provided to educate the public and that everyone should stay safe. But as to intent, you'll have to ask the sheriff. But my defense of the recall petition primarily is that he's using his discretion because the language of the recall petition, and this is in the brief and it's public, so I'm not giving anything away. The language as far as criminal enforcement in the Secretary of Health's order is that it may be criminally enforced. It's not, it shall be criminally enforced. So essentially this is a enforcement, according to my argument, and the court might see it differently, is that this is a discretionary action on behalf of the sheriff. He has the discretion to enforce or not. And so that hopefully that answers and probably gives you more than you wanted, Commissioner Edwards, about that.
Well, no, I guess I just want to clarify, but he did say in that news release that he had every intention to educate the public about wearing the safety and wearing a mask, and they should, right?
Right. The news release speaks for itself, but he generally says, I mean, as part of the release, he says he intends to work with our health department in continuing to educate the public and that everybody should follow the guidelines and take precautions.
Thank you.
Mr. Messer, go ahead, sir.
So I'm trying to focus in. I really don't trying to focus away from the merits of the petition, which, you know, he's an elected official and he'll, you know, he'll get a decision from the court.
Right.
I'm really trying to focus in on what my decision point is here today, because I'm not familiar with this statute. I did get a couple of emails and voicemails in the last like 48-ish hours, maybe 36 hours. I didn't even know any of this was happening. I didn't know anything about the recall petition. The folks who contacted me assumed that the board had authorized everything, basically, I guess, thinking that we had had a conversation like we're having right now. So I was blindsided by it. So I guess not having had a chance to look at this statute, it is, one of the emails I got said that I guess my question for you, Rick, is what is the standard by which we should be making this decision? Are we looking at, you know, is it kind of like in torts where if you're acting within the scope of employment kind of thing, then then you're liable, and if you're not, then you don't necessarily get the benefit? Is it just totally discretionary on our part? Do we feel like spending money on this or not? Is it kind of a default, like, you know, county, I mean, is there historical precedent for recall petitions? They made reference to something in Snohomish County, I guess, where a prosecutor had decided not to represent, the prosecuting attorney had decided, not the Board of County Commissioners, prosecuting attorney elected had decided not to defend another elected official in some analogous context, but I have no idea if that's apples or oranges. So I'm trying to make sense of all this.
Right. Well, it's a gatekeeping function, Commissioner Menser, and I'm looking specifically at the statute, and I'll read you the language. The necessary expenses of defending an elective officer of the local governmental entity in a judicial hearing to determine the sufficiency of a recall charge shall be paid by the local government entity if the officer requests such defense, which he has, and approval is granted by both the legislative authority and the local government entity and the attorney representing the local government entity. So basically, it's a gatekeeping function. And there's really very little interpretation of this statute in state law. In my search, I found two cases that refer to it. One of them is an oblique reference in a recall petition, and the other one is in a concurrence by Supreme Court Justice Johnson. The Snohomish County Sheriff was not represented by the prosecutor. He declined to represent him based upon the assertions that he'd made. And so one of the two parties that were required to give approval did not. In our case, and Mr. Toon, I'm supposed to be jumping on here, and I guess I'm speaking for him. My understanding is that I have authority from Mr. Toonheim to represent the sheriff, and that's why I wrote the brief. The other authority comes from you, and it basically is, do you believe, according to what is defined as necessary expenses should be expended by the prosecuting attorney to defend the sheriff, at least in this action tomorrow, as to the validity of the recall petition that was filed. That's the determination you have to make.
Can you repeat the second piece? If requested by the official and what?
Okay. If the officer requests such a defense and approval is granted by both the legislative authority of the local government entity, so you, and the attorney representing the local government entity, so that would be John Toonheim.
And what was the bit? Okay, and what was the bit? So in this Snohomish situation, is this about masking and stuff?
Yes, it is. I hate to get into details because they're subjective and interpretive, but my understanding, there's Mr. Toonheim. My understanding in looking at the Snohomish case is that the refusal was a bit more severe on behalf of the Snohomish sheriff as far as his feelings and belief as to enforcement. But the issue itself as to mask and wearing mask it's similar to the Snohomish case. And Mr. Toonheim's on now, so I don't have to speak for him now. He can.
John, welcome, Prosecuting Attorney John Toonheim. Welcome. Did you get that question, or did you want to follow up on that?
Actually, I just came in, so I just caught the last a little bit of Rick's comments.
John, it was in response to my question about trying to zero in on what is the board's decision? What is the standard that we're trying to evaluate? And I had gotten an email about a Snohomish prosecutor that didn't extend representation. I was trying to parse out if there's a distinct, if we, you know, what is it that I'm being asked here to decide?
I think what you're being asked to decide is whether we can use county resources to represent the sheriff, at least for the petition review. Beyond that, it goes to the voters. And the issue here, I'm not as familiar with the Snohomish County one, though I know the Snohomish County Sheriff had a much broader resistance to doing any enforcement of the governor's order whatsoever. And this was really, as I understand it, Sheriff Snaza's issue was about not using the criminal justice system to do enforcement with regard to masking. And you know, I pointed out in my email that right now that's the stance of law enforcement throughout the county, and frankly, I think throughout the state, is that law enforcement is trying to take the approach of educating people about the order and about the benefits of masking and asking people to comply, and not you know, writing citations or invoking the criminal justice system unless they absolutely have to, you know, for a kind of a public's direct threat to public safety basis. That's my words, not theirs, but that's the general consensus of what I've heard of all the law enforcement agencies in our county. So I didn't perceive that the sheriff was doing anything different. I'm not delegitimizing the petition. This petition has been, you know, brought in proper form. It's going before the court. But the difference I see here is that the challenge here is really to the sheriff's discretion and authority within his role as sheriff. So in some ways, it's almost kind of a challenge to what is the authority and discretion of the sheriff's position generally, not to this specific sheriff, but, you know, to that office. And so that is a circumstance where I think using county resources to provide him advice and support in this review process. Again, we don't do anything beyond that because then it becomes political. So this is just the legal review by the court is appropriate. Now, if the accusation was that the sheriff as an individual did something improper, that he was engaged in some kind of improper or illegal activity, or something where, you know, in tort, we might call that a frolic, where he was frolicking away from his role and responsibility as the sheriff, then at least I think I would be coming to the board recommending that we not do this, because it would be individualized behavior that he would need to be kind of individually accountable for in terms of defending that. But because this had more to do with that overall role as the sheriff, I felt like this is one where it's not necessarily fair to the sheriff to make him bear this cost himself personally. So that's kind of why I decided to bring it to the board for this consideration. The distinction that I would make, at least when I was looking at it, between when we might ask for resources and when we would say, no, sheriff, you're on your own.
Anything further, Commissioner Menzer?
Not in terms of questions, no.
I'll just make, for the record, Commissioner Menzer, you said within the last 36 to 48 hours, you've received phone calls and emails regarding this. And I won't presume to know when Commissioner Edwards knew about this, but I learned about it about 8:20 this morning or 8:15 when I walked in the office. It was the first I've heard of it. So this is very good information, but it's the very first time I've been briefed on this. It's good information. Commissioner Edwards, anything further?
No, I guess I'd just like to get on with this to make a decision, because we've got a lot going on yet today, and I don't want to waste any more of the county's resources than we absolutely have to for this. So I would just recommend that we move ahead on this.
So what, we just give a thumbs up?
Yes,
think,
go ahead, Rick.
I was gonna say, I think it would be appropriate for, a formal motion and approval or not, just so in case we get challenged on this, we can say, well, maybe we didn't do this in exactly the right order, but it got done.
And would this be the proper form or this afternoon at the BoCC meeting?
This is the proper forum.
Right. You can do it here. We just need to have, there's a formal record, so we just need to have
Okay.
an indication that you're either giving approval or not approval. If you don't give approval, which is certainly your option, then I would inform the sheriff and I would withdraw, because that would be the appropriate thing to do under the statute.
So is there a motion?
Yes, there is a motion.
Go ahead with it.
I would move that we give approval for this matter to move ahead as presented by council to defend the sheriff.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to have the county deputy prosecuting attorney of the prosecutor's office represent Sheriff Sanaza. Is there any further discussion?
I would just like to say that I think that there is this, I've argued in other contexts that local law enforcement and prosecutor has discretion to decide how vigorously they're going to enforce criminally and how to go about things. And I think there is that discretion. So I think there's definitely a gray area here. Our own health officer, for example, when she directed, we have a mask ordinance, asked that it be basically enforced through education and those means. So I think there's at least an argument, and it's reasonable to have for this first stage, according to the statute that Rick laid out, it's reasonable that the sheriff have the representation.
Okay, no further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, John and Rick. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, commissioners. I'm sorry to throw this in. I understand, with everything going on, you're very busy, and we'll be sure to be, if this comes up again, be a little more proactive and give you a little more notice on something like this.
All right, thank you, sir.
And I'll just echo that. Thanks. This came up short notice for us too, but I appreciate the board taking it so quickly. And Ramiro, thanks for taking my message and getting it to the board as you did. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Ramiro. My shoulders are going to relax a little bit now. Thank you.
All right.
All right, we'll get to work. Thank you. Now we're going to continue on with the work session, or the agenda work session. We're going to review the August 4th election day, August 4th agenda for next Tuesday. And we'll call the meeting to order at 2 o'clock and pledge of allegiance led by Commissioner Edwards and approval of the agenda and the board meeting minutes from today. Opportunity for the public to address the board, and we'll learn more about that later. County manager's update. I'm going to presume you don't have anything at this point, Romero.
No, I don't have anything at this point, Commissioner.
That takes us to agenda item number 3, consent items A and B. The first is the sheriff's electronic commissary services contract for the county corrections facility.
Yeah, this is a request from the sheriff's office for you to consider issuing a contract with Summit Food Services to provide services to the commissary. All the inmates are accessing to for their needs. This is the current ordering process is a manual process, and this purpose of this contract is to itemize the process itself, and this is what the proposal is before you. I believe this is going to be saving a lot of time and effort, and is going to process the purchases and everything else associated with, I believe the commissary in a more efficient way. And again, the electronic ordering has been approved by the IT department. This has been also reviewed and approved by the ITC, which is the internal committee that reviews all the IT requests, and this is just the last step in the process associated with that. There's really no money exchange on this. This is just part of the normal process to replace a manual process into a more electronic process.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments?
No,
Nope.
sir.
That takes us to consent item number 3B, and that's the auditor's voucher list, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, this is for July 20th, and we will add the amount, which is $1,170,510.58.
Okay,
And if you
thank
have any questions related to that particular voucher list, let us know, and we'll make sure that we answer your questions.
And you always have, and you've been consistent in doing that timely. Thank you. Agenda item number 4, the sheriff request for proposal for inmate anger management, domestic violence, and female offender services for the correction facility.
Yeah, this is a request from the sheriff's office for the board to authorize issuing a request for proposals to secure the services for alternatives professional counseling from January 1st, the current contract expires on December 31st, 2020. They have been going through this process, meaning the sheriff's office, since 2012, which they provide an inmate anger management, domestic violence, and female offender services within the corrections facility. This is a program, and again, the sheriff's office has been implementing since 2012. The current contract expires at the end of this year, and they're requesting for you to authorize a request for proposals to renew the services, and whether confirmed in the same vendor or perhaps going with a different vendor to provide the same services.
Do you know what the cost of the current contract is?
I believe Heidi Thompson is online. I don't know if she's going to be able to answer that. If not, I can certainly come back with you with that question.
Heidi, are you available, or do you know? Okay, I was just curious what to expect, because I'm sure the price isn't going to go down.
So I will bring that question to you next. The answer to your question next week.
Okay,
and that will be the
vital,
cost. Yeah.
Vital services. Commissioner Edwards.
And is this, when we find out the amount, is this paid through the treatment sales tax fund?
I believe a portion of it, but I will confirm the source of funding as well.
Just again, taking pressure off the current expense budget, if at all possible, I'd like to make sure that whatever is covered out of treatment sales tax, please.
Okay, Commissioner Mincer, any comments or questions?
I just had the same questions. I guess we'll get the answer next week.
I will
Okay,
follow up on those 2 questions. Yeah.
4B is the contract for the full-time SRO, School Resource Officer in Rochester.
You
For the
review
next
this
several
item. You review this item, and in fact, items 4B and C. Reviewed those items last week. As a result, that was up for your consideration today. The board decided to delay those 2 items for next week, which is August 4th, and this is the agenda before you. And it was with allowing time. I believe Commissioner Menson requested some time to reach out to the school principals and get additional information. So item 4B is to provide the school resource officer services to the Rochester School District for a cost of $95,000, and that's a full-time position. And this particular contract goes for the school years of 2020, 21, 21, 22, and 22, 23. And that goes, I believe, from September to June, those services. And item number 4C, similar, but this is with the city of Rainier, and this is only for $40,000 to provide the same services. And also this is only for 1 year, from 2020 to 2021.
Okay, Commissioner Mencer, did you have a chance to reach out to Kim Fry, the superintendent?
I had meetings with both the Rochester and the Rainier superintendents, and I'm going to support these items. But I did have a request in the course of going through this issue last week. I learned that, or I was reminded, because I did remember it, but I was reminded that the state in 2019 passed a law that goes into effect in fall 2020. So it hasn't gone into effect yet, which is why I forgot. It was delayed by a year to kind of let everybody ramp up for it. And it was directly designed to address some of the concerns that I have. And so I'd like to see, it's state law, it's required, but Kim knew, in Rochester, they knew a little bit about it, but they weren't completely in compliance. And the Rainier folks didn't seem to know about it, but didn't. And again, we stepped through it, and they said absolutely they would comply with the law as they have to. But there was no problem. I'm just wondering if I could request that the contracts have a additional provision that just say that the parties will be in compliance with RCW 28A 320-124. And what that law does is it requires certain training, certain types of training for the SROs that research has shown is appropriate. Number two, it requires data collection so that you can track over time whether there's disparate outcomes in terms of law enforcement referrals and arrests and, by race, gender, et cetera. So it allows you to just kind of have a snapshot into that. And third, it requires an annual agreement to be signed about the roles and responsibilities that involves a process including parents, community members, students, and administrators, and the law enforcement agency. So that was the piece that in Rochester, they hadn't gotten that dialed up yet. And I just, so it was a good conversation because I was able to educate myself, give a heads up to the school districts. I asked Kim and Brian if there'd be any heartburn if I made this motion to make sure that our contracts were clear that we were going to comply with that. They said absolutely not. We have to do it anyway. So that's my suggestion. If there's no objection from my seatmates on that.
No, I have no problem with that. Yeah, but I want to ask you because I have not read. I knew about the law, but have not read that RCW. Is the data collection borne equally on the sheriff's office and on the school district, or how's that ferreted out?
It says, let me just read it to you. See, that's the agreement.
And is there any mandatory reporting of certain incidents on campus?
Just give me 1 second and I'll get it.
No worries. But I'm in full support of these, both of these as well. And I'm okay as long as if you insert that RCW compliance, it's the law anyway, or will be. Well, he's looking that up. Gary, do you have any questions or comments?
I guess I don't think I have any objections. What I would be concerned about is to make sure that this is not some kind of an unfunded mandate by the state, putting it to the county government having to expend dollars to do something and good stuff as far as I know, but the state continues to give us unfunded mandates, and that's against the law. So I am worried about unfunded mandates being recognized.
Well, as you well know, there are so many state mandated training sessions and requirements for law enforcement, and I'm not aware of much of those coming with dollars.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to add in there that provided dollars accompany any undue expenditure or unfunded mandate that comes along with this RCW.
If I may, the first statement on the RCW 28A.320.124 puts the responsibility on the school districts. And it states, if a school district chooses to have a school resource officers program, the school district must confirm that every school's resource officers has received the training on the following topics, and there's a series of topics associated with that. And so I believe that it's obviously an unfunded mandate because the state usually passes laws with no money, but that is something the school districts have to comply.
Okay.
So there is not a burning to the county as a result to the sheriff's office. is the school districts have to, I believe, bear the brunt of this particular new law.
Thank you.
I understand what you're saying, Gary, because for example, years ago, the DARE instructor course was 2 weeks long. That's 80 hours. And it was, you became subject matter experts as well as instructor development. And SRO, I don't know if the SRO or school resource officer training is 2 weeks or 1 week. But the schools have to be very aware and there's requirements around that, who they allow into the school to instruct kids as well, or be there on the campus as well. So I don't know if it's a 1 week or 2 week, but it's going to be not only a resource, when somebody goes to school, somebody has to fill in behind them. Or there's the cost associated. If somebody goes off to school and someone fills in behind them, there's overtime and the cost of the training. So it kind of compounds itself. And I'm sure they're not going to get any state dollars for that. But so the funding would have to go to the sheriff to support that, to his office. Ty, did you have anything further? Did you find anything?
Oh, yeah. The provision is, and again, I agree with Romero. Everything here is the burden, onus is on the school district. And the provision on data is 2C, which says annual collection and reporting of data regarding calls for law enforcement service, the outcome of each call, including student arrest and referral for prosecution, disaggregated by school, offense type, race, gender, age, and students who have an IEP. And it's interesting because when you start to look at the disparity data that's come in other parts of the nation on these, it seems like disabled students actually have borne a disproportionate burden under these disparities, even than different racial groups. So that's why that group is called out in this law. So clearly this statute was designed to target the things that I've read about in the research that I was concerned about, and I'd like to see this be implemented and just see how it works, and we can track it. We may not have any issues. And I also confirm with the superintendents that, you know, the big problem with SROs is if you're relying, if you think what you're getting out of them is school safety and discipline help, you're on the wrong track. But that is not the role that our two superintendents that I spoke with, that's not the role that they have outlined for the SRO. So I think they're on the right track. And this agreement that the law requires to be worked out with the community is basically to memorialize that. And I think that we're on the right track with this. And I would always want to consult with my educational policy experts. So I feel comfortable after speaking to the superintendents about it.
Well, the school district will have the tracking information, but if there's any case report taken, law enforcement tracks the exact same stuff, the date, the time, the offense, and such. But I don't think law enforcement tracks the IEP.
Yeah, no, I think it's on the school district.
School. But regardless, it'll be on the school as it's written. But law enforcement will have that in a tracking system of its own anyway in the case reporting. They track all the gender and the ethnicity and such as well. It's kind of interesting. Okay. So that's 4B and C.
Before you move on, I just want to formalize the request from the Commissioner Minster made. He requests, as I understand it, please correct me if I'm off on this one, Commissioner Minster, that you would like to add a clause on the contracts for items 4B and 4C to include this contract shall be in compliance with RCW 288.320.124.
Yes.
Yep.
And okay, so I got a concurrence with the board, so I will send an email to the Sheriff's Office to make sure they added that clause on both contracts.
Thank you, sir.
Also, Commissioner, if I may, can we go back to item 4A?
Yep.
There were two questions. I got answers to the questions from the Sheriff's Office.
Oh, yeah.
This particular program in 2020 cost $47,913, and they anticipate the next contract will be just about $50,000. And the funding source of that is 100% the treatment sales tax.
Thank you.
Very good answers. Very good. Thank you. So that takes us to agenda item numbers 5, which is Public Health and Social Services, approval of eviction prevention contract with the Community Action Council of Lewis, Mason, and Thurston counties.
Yeah, this item was brought to your attention a couple of weeks ago with the Department of Commerce has issued $3 million as a result, as part of the Coronavirus Relief Fund. And this has been allocated to Thurston County to provide rent relief for citizens who need in both in, I believe, in Thurston and Mason counties. And again, this additional money is for 3.1 million or $3.2 million. And that as a result of this coronavirus, as we stand right now, has to be spent by October 31st, 2020. There is a lot of moving pieces that perhaps this could be extended, even both at the state level as well as the national level, but that's yet to be seen. When this item was brought to your attention, the best way to allocate this fund is to enter into a contract with the Community Action Council, which they already provide those services to the citizens in need related to rent relief. This particular activity has 5 major goals the Department of Commerce would like to address. 1 is prevent evictions. 2, target limited resources to people most likely to become homeless after eviction. 3, target limited resources to people most likely to suffer severe health consequences as a result of eviction. 4, promote racial equity in who is served with a focus on equity for groups of people who historically have not been provided equitable access to rent assistance, including Black or African Americans and American Indians, Alaskan Natives, and Hispanics. And number 5, promote equity in who is served with the focus on the equity groups as stated above. I believe Jacinda is available to answer any questions that you may have on this particular item. But again, this is just to make use of the additional CARES money that has come through Commerce to the county.
Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
So this is a process in which property owners or landlords, I guess in this case, would receive compensation from the CARES Act funding?
No, this is a providing grants, so it has to be a request from property owners. It's not going to be a blanket to give to any property owners. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, but I guess what I'm curious about, are we giving monetary grants to individuals, or are we getting the rent paid for individuals?
I believe that is given to individuals. Jacinda, are you there still?
Oh, I hope so.
She's not. And I know that Tom is not available. I believe it's given to individuals based on an application that meet the criteria that I just outlined on the 5 items.
I guess my concern is to keep the economy going, that we make sure that the landlords do get paid instead of giving cash awards to someone that might make some poor decisions and not pay their rent. So that's how I'm concerned about it.
And I believe there has to be put an assurance in place that in fact the money is specifically for rent assistance. So we have to make sure, I believe, through this process, that whatever grants we allocated meets the intended purposes. So eventually the landlord will receive the money to avoid evictions.
Okay, but we've got time, it sounds like, by our August 4th meeting to assure those issues.
Yeah, and I will follow up with staff just to make sure they confirm my assumptions.
Thank you.
And it pays back rent, and it can be paid through December 31st as well.
No.
If they're paying the rent, it doesn't go to the individual, it goes to, I would think, the landlord.
Yeah, I don't know if it goes through December 31st, Commissioner. The money has to spend by October 31st, 2020.
You're right, it has to be spent by then, but you can account to the end of the year as long as it's paid up front by the 31st of October.
I don't think it can be.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but we'll confirm.
confirm that I'm correct. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure I am. All right, any other questions on that? Nope, okay, thank you. Number 6, Community Planning Economic Development. Kevin Hansen, our hydrogeologist, is asking for a contract with Cascade Drilling.
So item A and item B are related, is the same topic. We just need 2 different actions by the board. If I make, so the CPIT received a grant from USGS, the United States Geological Services, through the Department of Natural Resources of the state for the amount of $28,400. And this is to do a specific activities related to drill new 5 wells, repair 6 wells, and decommission 5 damaged wells across the county. Those wells are, as you know, very important, related to track the water quality, and we use the data to make informed decisions, as well as provide the information the board needs in order to provide policy decisions. So the item 4A is to award the contract to Cascade Drilling Incorporated for $55,810. The $55,810 includes the grant of $28,400, and the remainder, $27,417, comes from Thurston County as the stormwater fee, and that is included on the current budget. So the first item, again, 4A, is for you to consider awarding the contract to Cascade Drilling to perform the work for $55,810 with an additional 10%. And item 4B is a new local agreement with the state to receive the grant of $28,400. I believe Kevin Hansen is available. Yeah, I see him, to answer any questions that you may have related to those 2 items. But again, those 2 items are related.
Just real quick, 6B, there's no 10% for any amendments to that either? To that one?
Because it's a flat grant from the state.
Flat. Okay, great, thank you. Any questions or comments of Kevin, or go ahead, Gary?
I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this. So we're getting $28,400, and we're getting that to drill or to seal up wells. What's the deal? I guess I don't.
It's to drill 5 new wells, repair 6 wells, and decommission 5.
Okay, so we're going to repair 6 wells.
No, yeah.
And we're going to drill 5 more.
Yeah, and decommission 5.
And we're going to decommission 5 for a total amount of $55,810.
That is correct, of which $28,400 comes from a grant, and $27,400, the remainder, comes from the stormwater.
Okay. Now, I don't see any breakdown here, and maybe it's not all that important, but I think about decommissioning wells, and I thought they just put a little concrete in there and sealed her up, welded the top on it. I'm just curious, maybe this could be explained by Kevin. Do we have just a second, Kevin, that you could do that quickly?
Oh, absolutely. RCW requires a licensed driller to do this specific kind of work because in the past, an open borehole not sealed properly conveyed waste down the hole and polluted a lot of people's wells. So you have to have a particular method done, and that requires a licensed driller to do the work.
Okay, that's satisfactory. Thank you.
Wow. Commissioner Menser, anything?
Kevin, could you just maybe briefly explain kind of what the importance of, I mean, the public listening to this may not make any sense out of it. Why are we drilling wells, and what's the point? What do we get out of it? What does the community get out of having this system?
Absolutely. So, Commissioner, in 2018, we assessed all the wells drilled by Thurston County that we could find, all departments. We came up with over 140 wells. Many of those wells were long forgotten and were sitting out in fields, things like that. Of those, about 102 could be found and were still serviceable, but we found a significant number of wells that were in traffic lanes, that were collapsing, that were in bad locations, potentially harmful to public safety, and we prioritized those. And what you're looking at is the worst of the repairs or abandonments for wells that were no longer used and don't need. In addition, there were significant areas of the county that were unmonitored. We didn't know water quality, and as a result, we were sampling people's home wells. We've been trying to move away from sampling people's home wells and towards county-owned facilities. You may recall back a few years ago, you approved a new set of wells in the Rochester, Tenano, Grand Mountain Valley to do just this, to move away from sampling people's home wells. So this is the key locations we believe will provide us with water quality and water level information going forward in the long term while repairing and abandoning things that were safety risks.
Kevin, of the 5 that we're decommissioning, or you'll be decommissioning, are they all abandoned, or there are some, it's a mixture of damage?
Yeah, they're a mixture. Many of them are collapsed and falling apart. We have a few of these things. Many of the wells initially were drilled for stormwater projects that have been completed, and the wells are no longer necessary. So if they're just sitting out in the open, we don't care, we don't monitor them anymore, we didn't see any need to expend funds. But where it was a safety risk, there we need to take action. And so the short list you see is specifically for safety and health risk wells.
Oh, very good. Very good. Thank you. Any other questions or comments, commissioners? Nope. Kevin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll get to that this afternoon. We'll get to that next week. And that takes us to item number 7, where we do our wrap up of the agenda. And then we go into a public hearing next week at 3 o'clock. This is a community planning and economic development public hearing regarding interim regulations, development in floodplains.
Yeah, commissioners, this is, as you may recall, and I appreciate the accommodation the board made in for you passing an interim regulation to meet the requirements of FEMA related to the floodplain associated with the insurance they provide to the citizens within the floodplain. When the board passed that ordinance, it was intended that before you consider passing a permanent ordinance, you need to have a public hearing. And that is really the public hearing that you will be receiving testimony next week before you can consider approving via a permanent ordinance the requirements related to the floodplain as requested by FEMA. I know that Jeremy Davis is eager to give you additional perspective on this.
Good morning, Commissioners. So as County Manager Chavez said, that this hearing is actually on the interim ordinance that you passed on June 16th. Under state law, the county can pass interim regulations without a public hearing, so long as a public hearing is held within 60 days. And so the 60-day mark on the interim regulations would be, I believe, August 14th. So we're holding it within the timeline specified in state law for that public hearing. Following that, we'll come back to you again. We're likely to have one more public hearing actually on the final regulations, which we'll schedule with you after that ordinance is drafted and it runs through the appropriate reviews at the state. We did go through the initial regulation with ecology, but before we can pass any final regulations, we do need to send it to the Department of Commerce for the 60-day review, which I'm also going to request an expedited review by the state since we've already gone through this with them.
Okay. Any questions, commissioners, or comments for Jeremy? Okay, so then the public hearing next week, we can actually just go ahead and it's an option to affirm the ordinance.
Yeah, that's in your agenda have for your consideration 2 options, but certainly the second option to enact on the ordinance is within your purview, depending on the public testimony that you may receive. And again, that is an option for you.
So it removes it from interim to a regular ordinance.
No, sir, we would still have the interim ordinance in place until we come back to you with a final ordinance, which will still be subject to an additional public hearing. The public hearing next Tuesday is actually on the interim regulations that you passed on June 16th.
Right, same ordinance number, I see, okay.
Yeah. And when we come back to you with the final regulations, it will be with the same thing that we presented to you with the interim regulations. We're not proposing any changes or variation from that.
What threw me was, you were talking about the process in 60 days and such, but when I see in the description, ordinance 15905 interim regulations, then I look at the motion as proposed, move to affirm ordinance number, but it didn't say interim ordinance number.
My apologies, sir.
No, that's all right. That's what threw me. They didn't say interim in it. So I thought, wait a minute, we go into a regular, fully adopted. Okay. No worries. Any other questions or comments, gentlemen?
We'll add the additional word on the motion.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Have a good day.
Thank you. That takes us now to proclamations and awards.
Commissioners, there are no proclamations and awards this week.
That was Amy.
Okay.
Good job, Amy.
And then that was Amy Davis, our clerk of the board.
That is correct.
Okay. And thank you for that, Amy. Advisory boards and commissions.
Yes, this week we have received 2 applications. The first is for Nicolette Oliver, who has applied.
Amy, can you get to a real microphone? It'd be better for the public. Thank you.
Is this better?
Much better, thank you.
So we received 2 applications this week. The first is from Nicolette Oliver, who has applied for the Timberland Regional Library, Thurston County position. She resides in District 3. Her application is included in the packet. The second is for Fran Beard for the Veterans Advisory Board. This application was first sent over back in early February, where it was noted that Fran would attend their scheduled April meeting. However, that meeting was canceled due to COVID. So Fran has been participating in discussion since March, and she did attend their first scheduled meeting last week. And the current board looks forward to continuing working with Fran. So you may review these, and I can bring them back next week, or can move forward for today.
Commissioners, what's your pleasure? So I'm okay with both of them, but what's your pleasure?
I'm okay. I can say Ms. Oliver is an acquaintance who asked me how she could get involved in a county board, and I know she works for the school district in Centralia. So I thought the Timberland Regional Library might be a good fit for her. So I actually prompted her. I said, why don't you apply for that one? Because I think that's a really good and important board. And it was surprising to me that we'd had that vacancy. So I wanted to make sure we got that filled. So I suggested she apply. And Ms. Beard seems very appropriate for the Veterans Advisory Board.
I agree with that. Just reading her application. Commissioner Edwards?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thumbs up. Good.
So you'd like to bring this appointment this afternoon or for next week?
Oh, bring it this afternoon if you wish. Get it done.
What is your wish?
Yeah, okay, get it done today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Will do, thank you.
We're moving forward. Thanks, Amy. PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. County Manager Brian Dominique, Public Information Officer. Megan Porter, our Public Information Supervisor, is working at the Emergency Coordination Center this week to help with public information activities related to COVID-19. Also, last week, people who subscribed to our email distribution list to receive the Friday 5 newsletter probably noticed they didn't receive.
Hey, Brian, Brian, you're doing the same thing. It's breaking a bit. It's not coming in nice and clear. Thank you.
Is this better?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll start over. So Brian Dominique, Public Information Officer. Megan Porter, our Public Information Supervisor, is at the Emergency Coordination Center this week to help with public information activities related to COVID-19. And then last week, people who subscribed to our email distribution list to receive our weekly Friday 5 newsletter probably noticed they didn't receive one on Friday. That's because Constant Contact, which is the service we use to send those out, was down, but it's back up now, and we plan to have those going back out starting this Friday. And then around the county, the Thurston County Auditor's Office Election Division is hosting the county's voting center at the South Puget Sound Community College at the Mottman campus. Hours of operation are through Friday, July 31st from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Saturday, August 1st from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday, August 3rd, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and on Election Day, August 4th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And they have directions on how to access that on their website. And then in other news, the state's first diverging diamond interchange is set to open in Lacey in August. To make this happen, though, Washington State Department of Transportation is going to need to close the Marvin Road overpass along with the adjacent I-5 off and on ramps this weekend. The closures are scheduled for 9 p.m. Friday, July 31st through 5 a.m. Monday, August 3rd. And then finally, the census expects to start non-response follow-up operations in all counties west of the Cascade Mountains on Thursday, July 30th. Census workers will wear masks and follow CDC and local health guidelines while going door to door. And they'll also have valid government IDs with their photographs, U.S. Department of Commerce watermark, and an expiration date on the badge. And if anyone wants to try to confirm their identity outside of that, they can call the Los Angeles Regional Census Office at 213-314-6500. Pending any questions, that's all I have.
Any questions for Brian? No.
Just say that I toured the voting center with Mary Hall and Emin O'Connell yesterday, and it's pretty slick what they've been able to accomplish out there. And I think citizens should not be afraid to go get their needs served. They're well set up to accommodate the public.
Not only that, but please, August the 4th is Election Day, and that is the backbone. Voting is the backbone of our democracy. Please register, and if you haven't, and please vote. And that DDI, when it opens up in August, is going to be pretty impressive. I can't wait for that. That's the Diamond Divergent Interchange. It's going to be so cool. Confusing for many people, but once we get it down, you'll love it. Brian, thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Ramiro, legislative update, anything?
No, Commissioners, nothing.
Okay, let's move into briefing and public hearing decisions pending. First is TCAT funding request.
Yeah, you had a briefing from the Thurston Climate Action Team, and I'm not going to go through the briefing itself. The bottom line of that request was for you to consider supporting this effort by $150,000. And as they stated, they would like for you to consider to have those $150,000 to be put in place in 2020. As I stated at the briefing, it has to be an appropriation before the board can take an action on that. And the next step that you may have to have that opportunity will be during the amendment number 4, that you will be holding a public hearing tomorrow. My recommendation at this point is not to make a decision related to the request before you hold a public hearing that is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. I have a scheduled follow-up briefing with you Friday morning related to this particular budget amendment number 4. Well, you will have the opportunity to take into account all the public testimony that you might receive tomorrow, including this request of additional $150,000. That's the framing of this item.
Commissioner Menser, go ahead, sir.
Ramiro, you heard a different request than I heard. I heard that they wanted to launch a regional clean energy program that they've made 150,000. That each jurisdiction, according to the percentages of the climate mitigation plan, has contributed at 25%. So the ask of Thurston County would be $37,500 contingent upon, and this was kind of my addition, proviso that would make it contingent upon an equal amounts being contributed by Lacey, Tumwater, and Olympia. So that's, and I believe they agreed to that. So I think that's the ask. It's not $150,000.
Thank you for the clarification, Commissioner.
I took it that way too, Ty, but when I look at the last page, second to the last page, it says allocate dollars as soon as possible for county's share of 150, well, the county's share of 150 to launch. So
Our share of 150 total. And I know that that's how, I had some input from Lacey, and I know that's how they're interpreting it as well, because they were, some Lacey council members were asking me what the county was going to do. Have we discussed it? And they were deciding, they're going to be debating this week whether or not to make an equal commitment.
Okay.
So, so I will bring this item on Friday morning, where I have scheduled an hour, again, for you to go through all the public testimony that you might receive tomorrow afternoon during the public hearing. And thank you for the clarification, Commissioner Mensah, and that will be a $37,000 request. Certainly, just to give you a heads up, this is not, this particular request will not meet the intent of the CARES money, because that doesn't meet the criteria of the federal allocation the county has received. So then the option will be for you to find any other available funding, if that is the case, how you want to move forward on this.
Robin, do you have anything to add? Nope, okay. Commissioner Edwards?
At some point, when we do discuss this, could we make sure that we get all options presented to us as to what funding source this money might need to come out of then, if it won't come out of CARES?
Yeah, but perhaps the only option you may have is, and this is just first reaction to that question, will be general fund.
Well, that's what makes me nervous.
No, and you don't need to decide that. That will be part of your conversation on Friday.
Anyway, I'd sure like to know if there were any other options, maybe stormwater. I don't know. You know, that's gonna, we might have to work on some water issues.
Yeah, we will not be able to stretch that one.
Okay, well, you know where I'm coming from on it, okay? If CARES money is not eligible, that becomes a little bit of a different discussion, I think.
So tomorrow at 1500 or 3 p.m. is a public hearing on the budget amendment.
On the amendment number 4, yes.
Amendment number 4, okay, and this will be a part of that discussion?
I consider this request as part of the amendment number 4, so I will bring this item, this particular item of the request on Friday.
Okay.
And that will be in addition to any testimony you may receive tomorrow.
And that's again per tie, that is about 38,000, 37 or something would be the county share.
I believe it was 37,000. That was what the math.
37.5 is half of
37.5.
it. It's a quarter of.
And thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, my notes clearly reflect that, so I failed to highlight that.
All right, thank you. That takes us now to number 2, and that's the Long Lake and Lake Lawrence fee increase.
Yeah, you also received a briefing related to the proposed fee increases for both Lake Lawrence and Long Lake. And this is part of the annual adjustment due to inflation. And this is you're now making a decision to include the fees, but you provide direction to include those proposals as part of the upcoming 21-22 biennial budget. It's just to include as part of that revenue source. The proposal for you is to increase 1% Lake Lawrence for 2021 and 2022. That equates to an additional $2.83 in 2021 and $9.96 in 2022 for those individuals within the Lake Lawrence Management District. For Long Lake, The request was 3% for both 2021 and 2022. That equates to $13.14 in 2021 and $13.53 in 2022. In both lakes, they have their own way to Long Lake's a little more organized in terms of their management as well, but Lake Lawrence also has reached out to their affected ratepayers, and I believe there is a consensus for you to consider including those on the upcoming biennial budget.
Commissioner Edwards.
Just for clarification, we've also been talking about another assessment from Long Lake having to do with an alum treatment. Is that something different than what we're doing right here?
You heard that that you had a public hearing last week on that.
And was that the $34?
Yeah, it was a $30 is in addition to this. And as a result of that, you did not take an action last week. You just heard public testimony. And as a follow-up briefing is scheduled, I believe, in this upcoming week for you, because you requested the staff to come back to describe what is the formulation in which that assessment was established on the Long Lake residents. So that is
so separate action.
Separate action.
So that is, next week is when we're gonna have, because I was curious about the argument that one of the citizens made about why are we reducing stormwater fees and then making them do their own treatment? We could just charge them the stormwater fees and do it for them. That will be discussed at the next meeting.
That will be discussed because that is part of the public testimony that you received last week.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm thumbs up on these two increases because it's regular maintenance and the community seemed to be supportive.
When next week is that, Romero?
For the follow-up briefing?
Yes, sir.
Let me look at the calendar, please. I don't find it, but I'll make sure that I'll have something scheduled.
All right, thank you, sir. All right. Now that takes us down to commissioner items, and the first one is sales tax revenue update.
Yep, and at this point, this is just to frame quickly the issue, and Robin will take over. We receive a new update on the sales tax revenue last week, which Robin sent you an email related to that. And the next steps will be for Robin to walk you through a little more in detail as to what those numbers really mean, at least from our point of view.
Okay.
Can I just, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, did we vote on the Long Lake and Lawrence Lake, or did I miss that?
I saw a thumbs up.
Okay.
Well, do we hear a thumbs up, Gary?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what I recorded.
Okay, good.
Okay, ready for sales tax?
Yep, ma'am.
All right. So I'm going to walk you through a PowerPoint slide, and in the interest of time, I'm going to go fairly fast. So we've been talking about sales tax since early April, wondering what's going to happen in light of the pandemic. And we knew back in April that we would get sales tax collections for March and April, the first few months that would be impacted, in May and June. However, by April 15th, the state had granted a delay in sales tax payments until July 30. So we knew we'd have to wait even longer to see what the real impact of the pandemic was on our taxes. Here's what we were thinking way back in April. It was only, 4 months ago? But we knew then that the big question was, where were we going with sales tax? Collections had been quite robust. We already saw a softening of the revenue collections. We thought that they had hit their peak, but where were they going to go now? We talked about how to estimate the impact. And one of the things that was recommended by the GFOA way back in April was that we find a way to deal with uncertainty. We had to, their advice was that we need to accept that uncertainty is inevitable and we would have to make decisions even though we don't have all the facts. We want to assess using what they call the analog references and ranges. And by that, they meant pick a point in time or some situation that your jurisdiction is in or had been in that we could use as a place to start. And then they recommended augment what the expectations are for uncertainty, because what studies have shown is that people tend to minimize challenges. So they said augment your expectations. So what we did and what you see on this graph that we presented to you on April 2nd is we started at the point of the Great Recession, and in 2009 we lost a little over 9% of collections from the prior year, and then we created a range of how much revenue does this mean we would lose if it was not as bad or if it was worse. So this was the thinking way back when. By April 22nd, we were wondering what the shape of this economic downturn was going to be. And by April 29th, we were just trying to figure out, what do we know? Because we didn't know very much. We still don't know a lot, but here we are in July, and we knew that we'd get the revenue in July. That delayed revenue was going to come in July, and that's what we've seen, and this is what I've shared with you. This is a table of just 2019 and 2020. Here's what the forecast looked like at the time we launched into the pandemic or went over the cliff. And we saw that compared to the forecast, April was down a little, May was down a lot, June not so bad, and then the July payment came, and that was surprisingly good. So we took a look at this though, because we knew that businesses had been given the opportunity to not pay what they normally would have paid in April. They could delay to July. Here's what the graphs look like. This is the graph I share with you quite often. It looked really good over here. But how do we adjust for those periods? So we took a look at each of the payments in June and July and said, how much of those were for prior months? And here they are. We saw some very interesting things. For example, if you looked at 2019 and 2018, payments for prior months made up around 2 to 3% of those payments. But this year, the payment in June, 10% was for prior months. And then in the July payment, it was the same kind of a scenario, that if you looked at past years, 2% had been for prior months. This year, over 11% for prior months. And here's the breakdown. Another interesting thing we saw in the July payment, you would not have to pay June until August, but there was a large prepayment, or what looks like a prepayment, for the month of June that we would normally see in August. And we looked at a prior year, and that amount in prior years is only around $12,000. So we don't know yet what's going on there. So with the adjusted numbers, here's what the curve looks like now. May was only down about 5%. And if you think about when the businesses were shuttered and the governor enacted his stay-at-home order, it was about halfway through the month of May. So here's the downturn. Here's June, a big dip. And here's July, it's starting to come back. Not that 15% that the unadjusted number showed, but still not bad at 2.6%. And here's what the graphs look like with the adjusted numbers. And this here at this end over way to the right looks a little different than it did with the unadjusted numbers. Now, we're still trying to figure out what's the shape of the forecast. This is from an economic forecast from Standard & Poor's that I attended last Thursday, which was July 23rd. And they're still saying that the general shape of the forecast for the United States, you see where we go off the cliff, way down here. This is about where we're at right now. We're starting to come back a little at the end of the second quarter of 2020. But Standard & Poor's is typical of what you see in forecasts, all the forecasts that we've seen recently. They're saying that it's possible that we'll continue a long, slow recovery, and that it'll take us 2 to 3 years to get back to where we were prior to the pandemic, with a possibility with fairly high risk that what we'll see is we'll start to recover. The pandemic will hit a second wave, which we haven't hit yet. It feels like we've been in it that long, but we haven't seen a second wave yet. We're still in the first. If we do, and businesses have to shut down again, we'll have a recovery that looks, more like a W, and then it will take even longer to recover. Here's this graph again with the year over year. And I took a few years off so we could see the these end months a little better. And here's kind of what the shape looks like. Here's this V, and we're coming back. So the question is, where will it go next? So we are still in a time of uncertainty. Now, what does that do to our forecast? What I've done here is we have changed this. If you take, whoops, I'm going to go back a couple of slides. No, this way. And if we look at these months, the average is about 5%. So if you take that, we'd had 13%, which was the total impact. If we say 5% is going to be the impact this year of the downturn in 2020, and we assume that growth next year will be flat because it's going to be very slow to come back. And then we have 5% growth in the following year, which is actually better than what we saw in the Great Recession. We've also adjusted these numbers to be in better alignment. 97% was about where the treasurer said we're going to land, about 1% less than prior years. and the growth in future years, that makes the graph that we've been looking at, or the gap, a little less in this year, but it's still significant. And what we've been talking about ever since April was that the economic impact is not going to be so hard on us this year. We can get through this year, but by enacting the budget reductions, we're trying to mitigate the impact on these 2 years out here. Because these are the years, once the revenue starts falling, that we won't ever be able to recover. The money lost now reduces the base. So that's going to impact future years. So the gap still doesn't look great. We also had a question about what do other jurisdictions look like? So we had just a little bit of time to look at other jurisdictions. And so this graph shows, going back to January of 2017, back here, these are City of Olympia is this top dotted line in yellow. Then you have the solid line of Thurston County. This gray dashed line is Lacey. This is Tumwater, dash and dot, and then this dotted line down here is Yelm. And then you can't even really see the impact of Bucota, Rainier, and Tenino. Their reduction, or their collections are very, very small comparatively. But what you see is that Thurston County collections are very consistent with the City of Olympia and the City of Lacey, right up until you start looking at the months after the pandemic, where Thurston, for the first time in 3.5 years, has collected more revenue. The City of Olympia collected less than the county. And then you see this big uptick in the City of Lacey. When we looked at the numbers and the tables, what we saw is it's not consistent from month to month. The cities compared to the county, the year-over-year changes, really not consistent, except for this payment pattern is very similar. We started to look and haven't gotten enough time to look at what percent of Thurston County's collections are from the cities and what percent is the unincorporated county. That's the next thing we're looking at. This is only through June, by the way. We don't have the city data from July. We don't have that yet. And one of the things that we've asked for from WASAC is this upturn right here at the end, is Thurston unique, or did all counties see that? And we've not gotten that data yet either. But this was just some of the more interesting things that we've looked at and tried to do a little analysis on what we have and answer your questions. So that's what I have for this morning.
I'll turn it over to the commissioners in just a moment, but I like the AAA that you referred to. It makes perfect sense. But I would contend, and I might be completely wrong, but even though there's a lag in the sales tax, when I see the county on that last page starting to go up and then level off, and I see Olympia continuing on the downside, there is so much uncertainty in Olympia that I've talked to so many people now, visitors, residents, potential visitors that would stay in hotels, business owners. And I think with the uncertainty and the rioting and all the issues that Olympia is dealing with, I would just bet their sales tax revenue, especially with canceling all of the events throughout the summer, that it's going to be a big hit on Olympia. Maybe that accounts perhaps for our rise in sales tax and even Lacey's and Tumwater's perhaps. But that's just speculation on my part. Commissioners, Commissioner Edwards, you have your hand up.
Referring back when you were talking on page 15, you talked about a 5% reduction. And is that a reduction of the estimated ending fund balance, or is that an actual reduction?
That is a estimated reduction, not on the ending fund balance, but on the collection of sales tax in particular.
Okay.
We're analyzing what's happening to our revenue streams. I'd also say that we're trying to estimate compared, not to compare to what cities are doing or not statewide, but just what's happening in Thurston County. So we're comparing it. First, we compared ourselves to what happened to us in the Great Recession. Now we're trying to compare to what few data points we have.
Okay, so the delay of payment, and that was spread out over a couple of months, apparently, right? And
Right.
then when we figured this out, when you were talking to that financial group, a meeting you attended to, was that specifically for Thurston County, or was it the state forecast, city, nation forecast? What was the intent of that group? Were they looking at the big picture? Were they looking at the smaller jurisdictions, or what was going on?
So the Standard & Poor's is a global company. They were looking specifically at the US forecast. That is just the most recent one that I've attended. So I grabbed the graph from there, but it looks very much like all of the other economic forecasts that I've seen in the last few weeks. They were looking at the US economy. But again, it's not much different than any of the rest that I've seen. Long, slow recovery.
Okay, and then I guess from my estimation, it looks like we're, I don't know, short $100,000 or something. You know, I'm not sure of that, but from what we forecasted, so if we as a board would try to help our economic engine recover and get going, mainly through regulatory reform, I see us coming out ahead if we would get off our hands and get something done here and help businesses be able to succeed, whether that has to do with holding them back through, I don't know, health department inspections or regulatory issues that we could ease up on, has been proposed by the Master Builders Association. I really think we can come back if we'll do our part. If we don't do our part, then I feel that we're probably going to be hurting some, but not as much maybe as others. So that's just my assessment of it.
Commissioner Minster, anything?
No, the last graph you showed, it really seemed like Olympia was the outlier. Everybody else's trends were tracking. Lacey, Tumwater, Thurston County, but somehow Olympia's, obviously different. But
Yeah, and we don't know why.
I can get into why if you want to.
No, wait, but let Robin finish.
Yeah, you go ahead and then I'll give you a why.
Go ahead, Robin.
I was just saying that we haven't had the data long enough to do any outreach to ask what the jurisdictions think might be going on.
Okay.
Can I comment?
Do you have something to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, yes, I do. I'd say the question was asked, you don't know why. Well, I would contend that Olympia has promoted a deviant lifestyle amongst the homeless, encouraged those folks to come here. That in itself has ruined the downtown area. And then allowing all these riots to continue with no accountability, they've brought this whole action on themselves. So if that's the way people want their government to run, they can probably see where it's going.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Robin, for that. And then we're getting into now the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan Phase 3 Subcommittee.
Yeah, Commissioner Edwards is the one who represents the county on the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan Committee, and I believe he was not able to attend last week, and as a result, Commissioner Messer attended that meeting. So I will probably have Commissioner Messer explain, I believe, the Phase 3 Subcommittee that was discussed at the last meeting.
Yes, so I had to leave a little early, but one of the asks was about a subcommittee to do some preliminary planning for what implementation and monitoring and just what would happen. I mean, draft plans coming at the end of August, public comment, the jurisdictions, hopefully will adopt the plan, and then what? And so a representative from each of the other 3 jurisdictions volunteered, and I was just subbing in for Commissioner Edwards. So I said that I would ask whether or not the county wanted to have a representative. If obviously it's Commissioner Edwards' prerogative, if he doesn't have time or interest, I'm willing to do it so that we have a voice there. But it's just something I promised to bring to the board so that we could be represented if we want to be. I guess I've done a little bit of work on this because I attend the Thurston Thrives Climate and Clean Energy Work Group. And one of the things that work group did was make some recommendations to the Climate Mitigation Planning Group for Phase 3. So I've kind of worked on it in the context of a different group. But there it is.
I guess, Commissioner Hutchings?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Having sat on that particular committee and interacted with that group, I think what I'm coming away from that interaction with is the fact that we can help attain their goals from that particular committee through taking a look at what regulatory positions we take when it comes to things like insulation, solar panels, different things that could help in alleviating that carbon footprint, I guess, if you will, but at the same time, help citizens be able to afford to participate in this mitigation plan. And that would be things like maybe give folks a break in some of the permit end of things so we don't have actual capital outlay, but give them a break if they're willing to position their house in a certain way so that solar panels would become more beneficial, or a certain type of heating unit that would be more beneficial. So I think that we can do this rather than with a stick. I think we can do it with a carrot and get public participation more in line in accomplishing the goals. So I'll kind of let it go at that. I mean, that's what I'm taking away from that, and that's where I'd like to see us go. I am concerned about the current expense budget. Maybe not as concerned today as I was last week when I was meeting with some of those folks, though. So I would like to see what the other municipalities that are participating, if they're going to go the full route. I think it's a step in the right direction, but I think we can get there and we can make a difference without adding additional costs. It might be a little less income for us coming in, but I think we can overcome that if we were to do something about regulatory roadblocks in this county. And they are very excessive compared to other counties. So I think we could balance it all out and help the environment out at the same time. That's it.
Commissioner Messer?
It sounds like Commissioner Edwards has a lot of ideas and wants to serve on the subcommittee.
Yeah.
Well, I'll help you on it. I'm all for it.
Well,
That's all the question was just who's going to serve.
Yeah, who's going to serve on the subcommittee?
Well, I tell you what, I have had problems because of other conflicts with other assignments that I've got. And I certainly appreciate your help, sir. So if you wanted to sit on that, that would be great. I really do think we have the same goals. We might have different possibilities of way to attain that. But I certainly respect your position.
So
Sounds
what I'm
like you're
hearing
willing to
is
do that.
Commissioner Messer will serve on this subcommittee of the phase 3.
Is that
Yeah.
fine? Good.
Yep.
I'll let him know.
Perfect. Commissioner item number 3, hiring exceptions, discussion and decisions.
Yeah, hopefully this is an item that we didn't quite have time last week to go through it. So hopefully we have the time. And just as a matter of framing this whole issue, this is one of the actions the board took to establish is what they call a hiring chill, meaning that any position that became vacant after May 22nd, I believe, 2020, you wanted to have the opportunity to see whether to have the departments, offices and departments to make an argument as to why they need to hire those positions right away. And again, those positions are not necessarily related to individuals that have retired. Those positions became vacant for many, many reasons. And I have tried to bring those as a group because in the past I want to bring in a weekly basis, and that seems to be a little bit of a concern by the board, meaning that you didn't want to go see in a trickle based approach. So this is a group of positions that hopefully I can walk you through, and hopefully I can make justice to the requests of the departments and offices. So I will ask you, you don't have to do, you have to make the decisions on all the positions as a whole or as a group. Maybe you can just take position by position and see what you would like to do. And again, the decision for you will be whether you like to lift the hiring chill for those positions, which is 90 days from the moment that they became vacant, okay? For those positions that perhaps become vacant and the departments can wait in 90 days, it does not require to ask for your decision at that point. So this is those positions that again, they would like to hire prior to the 90-day hiring chill. Any questions on that?
I do have some. I have some questions.
Yeah, hang on, Gary, just a second. Go ahead, Ty.
Well, I just want to say that I'm not inclined to remove the hiring chill for any position. So I'm going to need to hear a very specific argument as to why a particularized exception is warranted. I've heard one argument with regard to one of these items on the list from the assessor that there's some internal stuff that's going on that we could potentially help facilitate a shift that's happening that makes total sense. But that's the only one of these I've heard anything about. And my mind is open, but again, the hiring chill was there for a reason. And the argument cannot just be that, well, I'm not going to have somebody for 3 months. Yeah, that's what a hiring chill is. So I need to hear something above and beyond that as to why we need to make a specialized exception. And we did one last week for the solid waste manager. I felt that is a very difficult position to recruit for. And if you don't have leadership at the top, you really can't expect efficiency and direction up and down your department. So that made total sense to me. But that's what I'm looking for, not just a sort of generalized argument as to why this person is needed in just kind of an amorphous sense. I need to know why there's a special reason to make an exception.
Yeah,
Go ahead, sir. Did you have?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. These Zoom meetings aren't everything they're cracked up to be here. Anyway, I have not heard that same argument, but I would respect my seatmate's position on that. I would also ask on the emergency services. We're expecting a lot out of emergency services now with this whole COVID business. And it doesn't look like it's going away right away either. So I'd say they're dealing with a problem as well. If I had to pick a couple out of there, I mean, that's where I'd be right off the bat. Without hearing maybe from the county manager about.
I was hoping for you to give me the floor too, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear from you if you've got more information that we could utilize, but
I wasn't expecting for you to pick the positions based on the list that I have.
Okay, well, I didn't know how we were going to proceed, so.
Go ahead, Romero.
I defer to you, sir.
Okay, so the first request is the senior maintenance technicians. That's from Public Works. That position became vacant on June 19th. And the urgency behind that is right now is where they provide the busiest season related to the road maintenance and road work is during the summer months. And the need is related to really hiring those positions right now because the work is needed now. And I'm going to try to be concise on the recommendations.
Yep. Did you want an individual decision?
Yes, I want an individual decision.
Okay, well, I need to hear them all before I can assess that. And also, my other question is,
whatever.
Are these all of the positions that have come open, or do we have ones that have come open where folks have said, you know what, I'm going to abide by the hiring chill, I'm not going to bring this forward? Or are people, as a matter of course, just taking a shot at whether the board will agree anytime a position comes open?
So there are a few positions on that touch spreadsheet that I attached that are not necessarily for your consideration today. Some offices and departments may probably take the path to wait the 90 days. This is something that I just bring to your attention out of all that list.
So you made the decision to bring these forward, or the department director said, I would like to ask the board to consider especially this particular instance?
So we have a process in place with an avenue in which either office and departments can go through human resources and make a justification as to why those positions needs to be considered to be lifted from the hiring chill. And that's what I bring to your attention.
So, okay.
So Romero, I want to find out what your role is. Are you a filter? For example, if Director A or whomever brings you a recommendation, you sort that out and then it doesn't come to us, or you support that and that's why it's here?
Yeah, that is the case, because if I don't see there is a need, I wouldn't bring it in front of your attention, because what I'm here is to advocate those positions. Because I will not be putting myself in the position to bring a request if I don't agree with it.
Okay, so you have filtered them.
If I don't support.
Got it. Okay, thank you for that. That's important for me to know.
Yeah, me too.
Because all of those requests, I'm full support.
Okay. So you thumbs up or down, correct?
Yeah, but I believe Commissioner Mason would like to hear each one of all of them before you up and down.
Okay, then.
You guys can give a thumb. I'm giving a sideways thumb until I hear the list.
Okay. So the administrative assistant for the emergency services, I think Commissioner Edwards really highlighted the need of continue to respond to this emergency is there. This is particularly right now, they're getting into the planning, preparedness, and mitigation. The fire season is probably upon us, and they need all the resources they need to respond to any potential emergency related to the dry weather. This is a position that is funded partially with federal grants. 2% is federal grants, not entirely general fund.
And you're talking about the compliance coordinator?
No, I'm talking about the admin assistant one. I don't know what compliance coordinator you're talking about.
Where are you?
I'm on the agenda, Commissioner.
Oh, okay. I was looking at this sheet.
No, on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
2% is federal grant?
12%. Yeah, 12%.
12. Okay, 12%.
So the next is from the prosecuting attorney's office is the victim's advocate. This has been vacant for a little while, and that position became available. It was scheduled to be eliminated, as part of your previous decision to eliminate all the vacant positions. But this particular position, you left that because it was funded by a different fund, the Victim Advocates Fund, and not the general fund. The next item is from the assessor's office. That's the senior appraiser. In that particular request, it really has a little more complex plan the assessor has in mind. The assessor would like for you to consider this to lift the hiring chill for him to consider 2 junior appraisers to compete for this position. So his larger plan is one of those individuals, lower level appraisals, will eventually get promoted to this position, and as a result, it will create a vacant position. But eventually, his larger plan is to have 2 senior appraisers. So a follow-up action by the board to reclassify the vacant position will be coming up your way. But at the end of the day, as he stated when I discussed with him, he will have a vacant position after all. But I think this is I believe that I have to give credit to the assessor. He always finds ways as to how he can enhance his office. And this is certainly the first step of the larger plan that he has in mind. The next 2 positions are related to the clerks in the clerk's office. Those are the clerk judicial proceedings specialist. And the same as the victim's advocate, those positions were slated to be eliminated because of the vacant positions, but those positions are funded outside of the general fund. So as a result, they were taken out of the elimination list from positions. Similar to the next 2 positions, the clerk judicial support specialist, as well as the system manager in the clerk's office.
Can we stop there for a minute?
Yep.
So I'm not tracking that. So we had the 4 positions. We granted the clerk back 1 position of her choice. And then there's these 3, and now they're coming back to be refunded. Are they the same positions that we determined when we decided to give 1 back? We didn't decide to give 4 back. We decided to give 1 back, which meant we thought we were eliminating the other 3.
Yeah, the clerk's office clarified that some of the positions are not funded by the general fund. And as you may recall, you eliminated from elimination those positions that are funded outside of the general fund, and Robin has additional information on that.
Not only are they not general fund, they are grant funded.
Yep.
And leaving these positions open impairs our ability to perform the work required by the grant.
So why is this, I mean, okay, so this is a completely different scenario than the rest of the, potentially the rest of the list.
Probably, yes.
Is that the same for the last one, systems manager?
Yeah, it's for all the clerk's office positions are the same.
Okay.
And I apologize, I'd like to run through this because the time is up on,
Yeah.
and they seem to be running out of time every time. The next 2 positions are in CPED, is the social planner and plan examiners. Those positions became vacant on June 1st. And the department is asking for you to consider lifting the hiring chill. And this is really related to the workload the CPED is currently have, related to the permits backlog. If there's anything I can argue and make a point is they need those positions. And this is really aligned to the Chamber's letter that you receive as to how we need to maximize the resources that we have in place. And this is an avenue. This is really is not an issue of lack of revenue because we do have the revenue and we have the funding. This is a matter of continuing to support that department to provide the services to the citizens.
Are these cost recovery positions, or how does they?
Yeah, those are the permit fees, yeah.
Right, and I thought we had a discussion about not. Oh, that was
This-
in
yeah,
context
this is-
of an eliminated position. This is
A hiring chill.
extending
Yeah.
that same policy to the chill.
Right. Those are that became vacant after that decision.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
So I have a question. I don't see, why, I'm told we only have one code enforcement officer. And as I'm not hearing, there's a need or an argument for adding one position, or is there not another position to be had?
So it's one, they might be coming for your consideration maybe in a couple of weeks. The other code enforcement position is for, as part of the budget amendment number 4, that you will be considering eliminating it.
Yeah, here we have just one, and I have no idea what the backlog is, but I'm getting emails from constituents that they've called in something that they think is out of compliance, and it's like a quality of life issue in neighborhoods and such. And I don't know if there's a backlog, or when I heard there was just one, people's needs aren't being met. It's managing expectations, but it's also managing the budget. So that will be coming to us, you say, in an amendment? Oh, we're eliminating that one.
Yeah, you're planning to eliminate one position as part of the amendment number 4. That was the decision that you made, the board.
I thought a decision, wasn't it amendment 3 that we backfilled 2 compliance positions? That was a 2-to-1 vote. I remember that debate.
Yeah,
So
but I believe as part of amendment number 4, one position is scheduled to be eliminated because it was vacant on May 22nd. I can probably have my list of the positions that are scheduled to be eliminated.
So there should have been 4, but now we reduced to 3.
Yeah, I can. Well,
I'm just concerned when Commissioner Hutchings says we only have one, based on the actions that I'm taking in the report. That's not my recollection.
So I was not ready to talk about code enforcement positions because it's not part of your list today. So you're asking good questions, so I will bring those answers to your questions next week.
Blame the chair, sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. Because it's a hot button that just came up this morning, in fact. So when I was looking for those positions, and compliance is the same as the code enforcement, right? Compliance officer?
Code compliance?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Yes.
I'm talking about code compliance, yes, but I see on this yellow sheet, or this other sheet that's highlighted, compliance coordinator. That's a managerial position in code compliance. What is that?
And again, I was not prepared to answer those questions,
Okay.
Commissioner. So I will certainly take your questions and answer those next week.
I appreciate that. So you need thumbs up or down on these right now then?
Yeah, and
Yes.
the last that I have is the 2 facilities technician 3s. Those became vacant mid-July, and those are a result of promotions. They have been filled. And certainly, I can, and Robin can add additional information, but I cannot stress enough, how the facility technicians have done an excellent job in just preparing all the facilities that we have related to the COVID-19 emergency. And those responses will continue to be part of that. The need for those individuals will continue to be, at least for the foreseeable future. And again, is for you to consider lifting the hiring chill as soon as feasible. Robin?
So these are the only 2 facility tech 3 positions in facilities. They require higher level certification and licenses, and they perform quality control and oversee the work of the lower level techs. And without these positions filled, that leaves the entire burden of oversight on the facilities manager for the entire team. So these are critical positions to do quality work in these buildings.
So a clarifying question. These 2 positions are they directly responsible for, and I don't mean by doing the work, directly responsible for, but we're accused of not maintaining the courthouse, and that's why it's falling apart.
That they are part of the maintenance of the courthouse. They're an essential part. They're lead positions.
So I see the need for it, just based on what you said, but also on the converse, it would be, wow, no wonder it's falling apart. You're cutting their positions. You're not funding, you're not taking care of the courthouse as it is. Okay,
Again, this is a hiring freeze, you know,
yeah.
I'd be back in 3 months to fill them if you don't grant this, but that's, with both of them vacant, that puts a huge burden on the manager.
No, I get it. Commissioner Edwards?
I guess just for the sake of expediency, I would like to say, let's go ahead with the recommendations as presented by the county manager for maybe even different reasons. And I don't think we have time to get into each one of those reasons now, but I think we all have issues. So I'd like to give him a thumbs up. I think he's done his background work and I'm content. And we got to get going.
So one last piece of information, Commissioners, if I may. The positions that perhaps they can benefit from the hire and chill on the general fund, because as you know, that's where we have the issues, is the admin assistant, as you know, is a portion of that on emergency services. And it's only a portion of that position that be benefit from the general fund. And the other position that could benefit from the hire and chill is the senior appraiser at the assessor's office. The rest are funded by other funds.
The central services as well?
Come again?
Central services is not general fund.
Central services is the, I believe is the building reserve, is that correct? Indirect cost?
Indirect?
It's the Central Services M&O Fund.
Yeah.
Can I ask Commissioner Edwards, all during the budget debate, you were consistently talking about the thing that we should be doing is just relying on the attrition, which I think is basically what this is. So I'm just curious. I was expecting to hear you say today that you weren't. This should be our primary strategy, and you weren't going to favor any of these. So I'm just curious what your thinking is, just so I can.
Okay, I think we need to prioritize those attrition positions, and I don't think we've got. Here we are trying to make a decision. Some major decisions affecting a lot of our employees' lives, and we're trying to do it in the last 5 minutes of which we always end up doing. And I have to give the county manager some credit for at least prioritizing those, because here's the list that, was submitted to us as replacements, and he's picked out a few that seem to be crucial, and the majority of those are funded through non-current expense. So that's where I'm going with this. I'm trying to be reasonable. Hard for me to do sometimes,
And for those reasons, the exact same reasons, I'm okay with every one of these.
All right. Good.
Okay, so you got it.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order from Robin or Romero? No. Commissioners, anything?
Oh, yeah, but you don't have any time.
No, you're right. All right, thank you very much. This meeting and work session is adjourned. We'll be back at 2:00. Thank you.